Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Shannon Attaway, Head of Events Marketing at Wealth Engine, and I'd like to welcome you to today's virtual event titled Find the Right Donors Through Social Listening and Wealth Insights. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you that we are recording this session, and a link to the recording as well as the presentation slides will be available approximately 24 hours after the webinar. Throughout the presentation, you are welcome to address your questions via the question and answer box, and our staff will try to answer them as we go. We will also address as many questions as we can during the Q&A portion of this session. For those Twitter users on today's call, we are live tweeting the conversation, and we hope that you will join us. So be sure to follow us at Wealth Engine using the hashtag #SocialWealth. Also appearing on your screen are the Twitter details for our speakers today. And now I'd like to give you a brief overview of what we will be covering in today's presentation. Our presenters will discuss how to turn unstructured social data into actionable insights for fundraising, how to utilize social listening to see what your prospects and donors are saying, leveraging influencers for fundraising, and identifying top prospects and donors based on wealth, lifestyle, and demographics. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce our presenters for today's webinar, starting with Raj Lamu. Raj is CEO at Attentively and partner at Fission Strategy. She served as Executive Director of the New Organizing Institute after working for MoveOn.org and spending a number of years managing online campaigns for social causes. Also presenting today is Jessica Smith. Jessica is a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Wealth Engine. She enjoys more than a decade of marketing strategy, sales, and digital experience. Jessica has worked with big brands, startups, and media titans to craft their digital marketing strategy, identify influencers, develop active and engaged communities, and generate conversations both online and off. And now I'd like to turn things over to my colleague Jessica to get this presentation started. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Shannon, and thank you everyone for coming to our webinar today. I wanted to just introduce Wealth Engine for those who might not be familiar with us. Wealth Engine uses data science and predictive analytics to remove the guesswork from fundraising. So the net is that our customers engage with the people who are most likely to donate and don't necessarily waste time on the ones that have no inclination to. And here you can see some of the very esteemed organizations that we've helped with their wealth intelligence and fundraising in the past and presently. Now I'll pass it over to Raz.
Sure. Thanks, Jessica. All right, cool. So I'm really excited to be here today and about our new partnership with Wealth Engine. I'll introduce Attentively a little bit. We are an engagement marketing platform for causes, for nonprofit organizations, universities. And I'll just share a little bit about my own background. I've been working in this space, cause marketing, aka online campaigning, since about '98, so a little while. And I've seen the tools available to campaigners evolve radically. It seems like last decade was really about scaling, using technology to enable huge numbers of new people to engage with causes, with politics, with their communities. And the challenge that we faced with those strategies has been depth. How do we go beyond clicktivism, beyond that petition signature, that tweet, to really deeply connect with people in a way that will transform them from participants to leaders, and from recipients of information to sources of information. I believe what's really changing the game today on that front is the ability of organizations to harness big data to understand what's likely to resonate with a particular individual. So you can meet them where they are based on the resources they have to contribute, the reason their heart's in it, and connect in a long-lasting way. And that's why we built Attentively. We're the only solution built for nonprofits that drives engagement with your campaigns by turning your quiet supporters into vocal advocates. We show organizations what the people in their CRMs, those donors, those supporters are saying on social media and who's influential so they can better target via email and social to radically increase engagement and reach of campaigns. And that big data component, that understanding better who are these folks who are connected with your cause is why we're excited about this partnership with Wealth Engine. We believe that understanding your donor's ability to give, combined with social listening, gives modern fundraisers clear insight on who to spend time with and what's the best ask. With Wealth Engine, you can easily see the net worth of a given prospect or even build a new prospect list from scratch. Social listening allows you to see what these prospects are talking about on Twitter and Facebook, and most importantly, if they're posting about your area of focus. Who wouldn't want to know if a prospect for new or increased giving is talking about your work, and best of all, has the ability to give twice as much? Hand it back to you, Jessica.
Thanks, Roz. So let's talk about finding hidden wealth. So this is where it becomes really powerful using Wealth Engine with Attentively. So Wealth Engine, we really are able to take your donors and screen them to really identify those who are going to be the top constituents who have the greatest propensity and capacity to give. So not only do they have that net worth, but they also have an affinity towards your cause and causes like yours. So the process that we take our customers through for fundraising is really first segmenting their donors based on their propensity to give and their interests, and of course previous donation behavior. And from there, our clients are able to prioritize those lists so that they're targeting, so that they're spending time on those who have the highest affinity towards their cause, and then they're able to manage and cultivate. This comes in this adds a lot of high value to large teams for dedicating resources as well as making hiring decisions, because they're able to assign those segments to their gift officers or research team to really cultivate those in a meaningful way. And then finally, they're able to qualify and assess those prospects and measure the ROI and the time investment and the money investment. So it's not just increasing the dollars raised, it's also decreasing the cost per dollar raised as well. So with Attentively, we're able to layer that on top of the social profiles of the donors as well. So really, if we're looking at social and the social profile and the wealth profile, we're looking at this for new opportunities as well. So we can look at taking this as, you can see this first person here. You can look at his net assets. He's an animal lover, that he's marital status, he might be married, and the school that he attended. And then the second profile here, you might know his net assets, his political affiliations, his marital status, and school attended. And that's going to give you, on the perfect meter, these might look pretty good, right? But what we really want to see is a really holistic view of your potential donors. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at for the perfect prospect. We're looking at someone who has a very strong network with people like him who are looking to make a difference in the same way that he is. And then we're also looking at those income factors, the net assets, along with those lifestyle factors too. So this is where the overlay of Attentively and Wealth Engine can become really valuable, because it almost becomes three-dimensional. So, we wanted to give you a view into what this looks like. So Wealth Engine really provides unprecedented insight, and being able to add the capabilities of Attentively into the mix makes it that much more valuable. So we're looking at lifestyle and wealth data. So you can see there that we don't just create lists. Wealth Engine really provides insights into the lives of your donors, and then Attentively supports that in real time, looking at their conversations as they happen. So you can see there are the contact details that you absolutely need, but then you can also see at a glance right here, interest and lifestyle, their connections and into your organization so that you can make warm intros. And then you can see at the bottom there's the wealth scores as well, which we'll talk about in a bit, and their total wealth. So you can see all of this at a glance. And now I'll pass it over to Roz so she can talk about the integration further.
Great. So, all right. So Jessica sort of given us an introduction to the wealth insights piece of this, and the premise of the webinar that there's value to combining this data, wealth data and social listening. So I want to get us on the same page about the second piece. What is social listening? Social listening is the process of monitoring digital media channels to understand the conversation around a topic or topics so you can better engage those people driving it. Until recently, the problem has been you can listen to your followers or you can listen to the world on social media, but not in a scalable way or a way that you can take systematic action. For example, as a development director, you might need a way to efficiently listen to donors and prospects and not have to deal with 5 different tools just to understand what one person or one donor is about, much less do that record by record gasp, across your entire donor base. So this is what we mean when we say turn unstructured social data into actionable insights for fundraising. You need to see what your top donors are talking about, their propensity to give, and their history in a few clicks, not hours of research. You also need a way to take this information, develop a strategy, and make an ask, whether that's via email or direct mail, in person even, and track those results in your donor database. So before we get into workflow, which I know is what you're interested in, I'll show you what social listening and actionable insights look like. Click over. Great. So let me give you an example, a hypothetical, almost real person. Let's meet Susan. She's a past donor. She's given $500 over the past 2 years. Never attended an event, but she reads your email. She lives in New York and she's married. You know this from your current CRM. So we have the first component, her history. Her last gift was $100 and it was 6 months ago. So under typical circumstances, you'd ask her for $125. You just sort of up it a little bit. That's how, the typical highest previous contributions approach. But what you found is that what if you found by layering on wealth data that she gives to other groups? She has a net worth of, X million dollars. She's doing pretty well for herself. She's talking about related issues on Facebook. So, here you start to, you get one more layer of the onion, okay, she can give more, let me ask her for a larger dollar amount. Now we layer on the social listening component, and what you're looking at here is a social profile for this person. So now we know, okay, she's also, in addition to, having a reasonable personal net worth and having given to your cause at a level that is less than that would indicate she could do in the past. We now also know she's a social media influencer and she happens to be a personal finance blogger and radio host. This is a real person or a real profile. So you can see not only is she a past donor, but now we start to understand who is this person and why is she connected to the cause. Her focus in her personal and professional life is she's focused on building wealth for single moms. That's what speaks to her. Let me go to the next slide here. So this is where social data starts to provide opportunities for richer engagement through personalization. We take that unstructured social data and by combining it with wealth data, with that CRM history, now we're able to really personalize and ask to Susan. So there's kind of 2 components to this, right? When we talk about personalization, personalization, I think in a lot of contexts, people mean something really simple, inserting dynamic content like first name or where someone lives into an email or, that highest previous contribution plus 25%. We're not talking about that. We're talking about personalization in the sense of understanding a donor's values so you can communicate with them targeted at the reason why they give. So we know Susan's committed to economic empowerment of women as moms specifically. So if you're in a situation where you're making a personal appeal to her, you can speak to that point. So we're talking about prep for high-dollar fundraisers, where there's going to be an in-person event, or relatively small segments where you're doing direct mail or personal appeals. You can speak to that cause that's close to her heart. You can provide examples of single moms who've gained independence thanks to the work of your organization, or the positive outcomes that your work has had for those kids. And if you're putting her, let's say you're taking a little bit broader approach, and you're doing list segmentation, you can put her in a list segment and flag her as someone who's interested in families, economic empowerment, moms. And given her social reach, not just on social networks, but also via her blog and her radio show, you could consider her for an ambassadors program, where she's not only asked to give, but to help fundraise. That combo where you're asking someone to give and asking them to help fundraise is, a tried and true approach in fundraising. We see it all the time in event fundraising, where you say, can you sponsor or host this event, and it means you either write a check or you get someone else to write the check. This is kind of the modern version of that, and we saw that at work with the Ice Bucket Challenge, where you could write a check or you could dump some water on your head, and at the end of the day, people ended up doing both. I know that was the case with my family. We got challenged on Facebook, dumped some water on my head and my husband's head, and then we thought, well, this is meaningless if we don't write a check. And so we did, and so did, I don't know, hundreds, at least thousands of other people. So that combo can be really powerful together. All right, so let's take a step back from Susan in particular and think about the big picture. Social listening enables organizations to better engage their donors in three ways. This is how we think about this unattentively anyway. One is knowing which donors are on social media, so plain and simple, who's on, how active are they. Two is creating actionable insights out of that data. And three is providing that personalized engagement across channels. So this first step, when I say know which donors are on social, that encompasses understanding the potential social reach of your list. So how well connected are these folks? Which networks are they utilizing heavily? We see that really varies across organizations. So some organizations have, a set of professionals. First, associations are a great example. Those folks are going to be heavily on LinkedIn. Maybe that is even their, network of choice. You have other groups that are super active on Twitter, and better yet, talking about that particular cause. You've got other groups where, maybe Facebook is the preferred network of choice, and they talk about 100 different things. So just understanding at that high level, who are these folks? What's the opportunity here? And then the second piece is getting to know your influencers. So first question we always ask, do you have those true VIPs that reach thousands of people? A lot of organizations do, and they don't even know it. Someone gives you a $10 gift or a $100 gift, or maybe, participates in some even lighter touch way, like signing a petition. There isn't someone eyeballing each name that comes in. You don't necessarily know unless you do the data analysis. Hey, this person actually is, either an A-list celeb or, maybe a little, like a really popular blogger or someone else who has the ear of a lot of people. So first thing we look for is those VIPs, and then the second thing we look for is citizen influencers. So there's that broad swath of folks that reach the majority of your potential social reach. And out of that information, we create actionable insights. So by listening to what a person's saying on social, your organization can really understand which issues are going to resonate with them by using relevant search terms. So here we can see, I've borrowed a few different snippets from the Attentively dashboard just to give you some real-world example of what I'm talking about when I say, listen to what your broad donor base is saying on social media. So on the right-hand side, we have something called Saved Search Posts. So these are posts by your donors about the issues that you are trying to connect with them around. What's great about narrowing the universe of people you're listening to is you can listen more broadly. So maybe you're trying to alleviate poverty, as one of our larger clients is. we can listen not just for mentions of poverty, but also, hunger, economic equality, family stuff. You can broaden the number of touch points because you're listening to a very tightly defined audience. And actionable insights, a great example is the middle of that, where it says contacts using a saved search. One actionable insight, if you've got, let's say you do have VIPs on the list who reach thousands of people and they are talking about your cause today, great. An actionable insight is those folks are actually worth connecting with directly on social media. And it's a whole other webinar to go into, or maybe several to go into, what are all the different ways that you can engage these folks based on these insights. But I want to give you a little bit of information, a little sort of real-world view on the types of insights you can get. The last one there you might be wondering about is that chart at the top. That's actually comparing the frequency of mentions of different issues that your donor base is talking about. And you can define those however you want. We have fairly broadly defined topics here. An example of some interesting insight we would get on this particular list is, hey, on about a week and a half ago, the 2016 campaign really came into focus for these folks. And there was a lot of mentions, and that's likely to go up and down, but continue right up through that, the election in 2016. So you can see when does something hit top of mind and start to work that into your messaging. And then the third piece I mentioned is this, providing that personalized multi-channel responses at scale. So how do you utilize this data to really target donors with messages that are going to resonate in a scalable way? So there's really two approaches. First is to develop a list of search terms to monitor. So mentions of those keywords in the conversations of supporters can be monitored in real time. And to a large extent, that communication can be automated. So for example, anytime a donor is talking about something related to your work, i.e. poverty alleviation, they can be reminded of how they can show their support with a triggered email. We always recommend a mix. If you're going to use this for fundraising, to mix it up with other engagement asks. You want to deepen, again, those touch points with the organization. Secondly, look at the records of your major donors for that high-touch personalization. Timing is everything. So if there's a swell in the conversation about the work you do, seize the moment. Send out an action alert or donation appeal while it's top of mind. Something that chart I showed you a moment ago can really help with. Often you'll suspect an issue is trending with your base, but you can't back it up with real data. You're not sure. And one of the dangers of the world that we live in is these like little information bubbles, these filter bubbles that we live in, right? Like your Facebook page makes it seem like, something is trending or it's top of mind for everyone in the world. Well, Facebook is actually pretty good at narrowing the scope of your world. So just because you think something's gaining traction, it may or may not be with your donor base. So what this does is allows you to apply some real data. It's like running a daily poll in your supporters or your donors so you have a pulse on, is this resonating with people? Should we roll with it? Do we need to address it? There's just one small real-world practical example here. When a donor talks about your issue or specifically names your organization, uses the hashtag you're promoting, it's key to have the ability to easily segment and respond. Even simple personalized donor communications like thanking donors or favoriting their posts pays off. Here's a quote from one of our clients, Project Hope. We've never seen so many donors thank us for following them on Twitter. It was very exciting to see that level of donor engagement. We have a number of different clients to do this. It's a really simple thing. It takes a couple minutes a day. And that can be just layered in with the other tactics that you're applying to deepen that donor engagement. Last piece before I kick it back to Jessica for a bit is retention. So in our own client base, we see the demand to increase engagement with the goal of driving action. That's something people say they want to do. Not always just fundraising, but driving action. So specifically, our customers are looking for ways to reverse an industry-wide decline in email conversions through greater personalization. They're looking to improve donor retention by deepening engagement. When I say deepening engagement, I mean specifically increasing the number of positive interactions that donors having with the organization. So, in between the asks, they got to be doing other things with the org to feel connected. Donor retention is an ongoing problem for a lot of nonprofits. The 2014 Fundraising Effectiveness Project report evaluated 3,500 nonprofits that showed that the median retention rate was 43% in 2013. So less than half the donors who gave in 2012 made repeat gifts in 2013. More shockingly, they found that for every 100 donors gained, 102 were lost. So they were on average experiencing a net loss of donors in 2013. That is the opposite of what we were trying to do. So how does this relate here? Broadly speaking, donor revenue often depends on how engaged that audience is with their programs. The more engaged, the higher donations per supporter. So retaining donor engagement is in some ways more difficult than recruiting new donors because they expect you to speak to them personally. Now they have this connection with you. You're not a stranger anymore. And social listening gives organizations unprecedented insight into those donors' lives and the opportunity to speak to them in that personalized way. So combining CRM data, revealing prior interactions, and third-party data, including this rich wealth data, no pun intended, with social listening, and now enables organizations to put together a pretty sophisticated picture of each donor, including that propensity to give. Jessica?
Thanks for that great segue. So we've been talking a lot about wealth scores and propensity to give. So I just wanted to take a moment and kind of show what this means to those who might not be as familiar with Wealth Engine. So I know many of the people on this call are Wealth Engine customers, so I won't spend too much time, but wanted to show you the propensity to give. So we call this the P2G score. For short, it's our wealth score, and really it looks at the predictive value of the data sources. So it's looking at what we expect people will give in the future. This is based on looking at giving in the past in some respects, but it's also looking at the current wealth. It's also looking at the quality of the match to those sources. So when we look at your list of donors and we screen them using Wealth Engine, some of them are going to find more matches to our data sources than others. And that's why we have our kind of proprietary algorithm so that we can get the most accurate score possible based on that. And then the third factor that we look at for our P2G score is the estimated giving capacity. And so that's looking at their net worth, their assets, and as well as their affinity to giving, because depending on how that's dialed up or dialed down for the individual, it's going to affect their score. So for those who kind of comprehend concepts like this more visually, we have a little visual here to show you what that means. So when we say someone has a P2G score of 1, 0, that means they're excellent. Those are the ones that you're going to want to pay the most attention to. Ones, as you go further down, you can see that the higher the number, kind of the lower the score, the lower priority you'd give to those. So, there's lots of, if you want a deeper dive into this, you can always go to our website at wealthengine.com, and we talk about this further there. So I won't get too much into the weeds here, but I really just wanted to kind of set the stage and give some context since we've been talking about wealth scores and the propensity to give. Okay, so wanted to also share with you just one of a quick example of where we've helped one of our customers, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. They were looking at a lot of different solution providers for their giving program, and they knew that most of their gifts were coming from just a few people. And so the first thing we did is we really helped them validate that 90% of their total gifts were coming from just 5 individuals. So they knew once we validated that, we could help them really identify those who could give, but maybe at not the top level there. So we were able to identify and segment, and we talked about segmentation earlier, their universe of alumni and parents to enable gift solicitations in the kind of the middle, what we call the middle range, the $20,000 to $50,000 gift range. And so by doing that, we were able to increase the average gift from $84 to $158 per average gift. So that's from the recent alumni giving $50 a year all the way up to those large gifts. And we were able to decrease the cost per dollar raised from 66 cents per dollar raised to 44 cents. So that's pretty significant. And so this is just, again, a visual to show what understanding the wealth scores and getting that wealth intelligence around your kind of donor universe can do to make a huge difference in fundraising. So what does this all mean? So let's bring it all together here for our partnership between Attentively and Wealth Engine. This right here is a very, very simple illustration, but it's pretty powerful, and I'm going to explain why. So when we're looking at your donor universe, Attentively is really helping you identify who has social equity and how much within that donor universe. So the level of influence, if you will. So the higher influence they have across their social channels, and that can be, but we're looking at online here. The more influence they're going to have on encouraging and inspiring their network to give. And so on the other end of the spectrum, Wealth Engine is helping you see the wealth score. So to compare apples to apples, the wealth equity of your donor universe. So when you put those two together, what you can find is that you might have some people who have huge influence but don't have a high net worth, right? You still want to talk to them, and they might have, and we have a feature called Circle of Friends where you can see who's in that network, on whether it's boards or other networking activities that they might do. So you're able to see that even though they might not have a huge amount individually to give, they might have friends who do, and they hold huge influence there. So they have high social equity. On the other end of the spectrum, if we look at wealth equity, you might have people who have a lot to give, but they might not be that active on social media channels. But where you can see where the two overlap, those are going to be hugely powerful people, because not only do they have the propensity to give, but they also have the influence to empower and inspire other people to give too. So, and so where we work together is to find that hidden wealth. So we can help find the hidden wealth within your most influential, and we can also help you find those who are, socially wealthy, if you will, within those who might be in the mid-range as well. So together, it's a really powerful combination to raise more money. And so the overall goal is obviously to amplify and inspire. Was there anything you wanted to add, Roz, when we're talking about this?
No, I thought that was a great summary.
Okay, great. Well, then I'm going to hand things back over to you.
Okay, super. Great. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that social equity, and particularly about your current donors. Giving is fundamentally a social act. A big reason why people give is because they're asked to give. It's important to recognize that your social network is a financial asset. One of the most powerful resources to increase fundraising are your existing donors. The key to engage with these existing donors in a way that persuades them to recruit their friends, family, and coworkers. So while some of that giving might be a result of a few wickedly clever fundraising posts, we believe that a well-crafted, personalized ask for supporters to engage and recruit their own friends will help attract and persuade donors that may otherwise not be receptive to giving. I always look with envy on Upworthy and The Onion and people who can be funny on purpose every day as their job. I'm not one of those people, so I like to take solace in the fact that you can apply data and do this in a way, make asks and turn people into advocates for your organization in a way that is data-driven and systematic. So as important as it is to get past donors to give again, you want to increase that pool of existing donors and social word of mouth, because social word of mouth has proven to be successful when you can get those existing donors to kind of be out there making the ask on your behalf and recruiting those friends and family. Okay, so to dig into that a little more and highlight the power of word of mouth, earlier this year we did some research looking at the data of our own nonprofit customers. And we found that across 90 nonprofits, the top 5% of an organization's email list, that is, the top 5% of list members that had the greatest social influence, reached 85% of the organization's entire network. As the average nonprofit has, in our sample, which is again 90 nonprofits, has a network reach of 40 million people. Reaching 85% is a big deal, right? So in fact, that's on average 200 times more people than in the initial CRM. So in other words, if you're able to just focus on that top 5% of influencers and get them out there sharing your content, they alone reach 200 times as many people as you currently reach directly through email and direct mail. So you could potentially reach, by getting them to share your content, getting them to be out there making the ask to their friends and family, you can reach millions of new people. And I say millions not as hyperbole, but based on that data that the average organization among that list reached about 40 million. And that new audience is likely to be receptive, not only because of who the messenger is, which is their friend, but also because they're 1 degree of separation from a person who connected with your cause enough to ask their friends and family to participate. So they are a really great target, audience, and you're talking about or getting the message to them via the right messenger. So if you've got hundreds or thousands of people that regularly give to your organization, many of whom have these robust social networks, that can help you reach your next fundraising goal. Speaking of which, I'd like to share an example. So here's what can happen when you combine social media influencers and your current donors in a fundraising campaign. In 2014, with the help of Attentively, a large nonprofit identified 27 social media influencers and asked them to help spread the word about registering to walk for a big peer-to-peer fundraising event in their own words and through their own social networks. So just 27 people, this isn't a huge audience. They really focused down on a set of folks who they had identified as they were, based on their historical interaction, i.e. they had registered for the race or participated in the past. They were socially influential, so they're on social media, they're posting already, and they were pretty into the cause. So they identified that audience, they provided them sample content over 6 months, but ultimately asked them to speak on behalf of the org in their own words. And the results were pretty fantastic. They recruited an additional 105 participants to that particular walk who raised more than $200,000 in the short run. I mean, keep in mind, these are folks who are, then more likely to, do another race in the future. Not only the 105 new participants are going to have a lifetime value greater than that 200,000, but now those 27 social media influencers, they're really committed because they got their friends to walk with them. So again, it's this sort of perfect storm of, instead of just asking someone for money, you're deepening their engagement with the organization, they're recruiting friends and family, then they're more connected, and you've recruited new folks and raised money in the short run. Who could ask for more? There you go. So wanted to share with you guys, I know we promised at the beginning of this that we would have a special offer. So we would like to offer all of you who are on this webinar registered for it, a free audience insights report. This means we would give you a login to upload up to 5,000 of your donors or supporters and run a report on them. We're very careful about the data, happy to answer questions about that. It's not used for anything else. Just to provide you back this insights report that gives you some of the high-level insights that I've talked about. What is the potential reach of this list? What are the social networks that they're most engaged on? What percentage of your list are those real influencers who reach, that vast majority of your potential social reach, as well as, who are some influencers that floated to the top? Are they VIPs, or are you an organization that needs to focus more on that citizen influencer? So happy to provide that. It's just, you can go to attentive.ly/report, and we'll be happy to offer that. All right. I think I will hand it back to Shannon.
Okay, thank you so much, Roz, for that. At this point in time, we'd like to open this up for Q&A, and just wanted to remind everyone that you can enter your questions in the question and answer box. So please do so, and we will try to address all the questions that we possibly can in the time that we have left. So I think I have one question for you, Roz. What social channels can we use with your platform?
Sure. So there's a few layers to that answer. We actually, in terms of inbound, the information that we provide, we look at over 100 different social networks to find where these donors are present, where they're active. So in a social profile like that one I give you a little snapshot of earlier, actually I can go back to that probably. Let me get fancy here. All right, so as an example, this social profile here, that would show you matches on over 100 social networks. Obviously, the vast majority are going to be, on the ones that you would think of: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. But sometimes there are surprises, and we will show you the top 10 in the snapshot report that I just offered. On the communication side, you can respond to people directly, respond to posts directly on Twitter and Facebook, and you can send people emails or push ads to them based on not only what they are saying on Facebook and Twitter, but also you can filter based on social networks. So let's say you're launching a Tumblr campaign. We had one client that was a member of Congress actually, and they were going on Tumblr, and so they actually filtered everyone on their constituent list that had a Tumblr account, and they went and followed all their Tumblrs, which was the funny part of it was there's only about 125 people out of this whole district, but literally everyone followed them back because it was early days on the social network, and I think they were just a little bit surprised. There was this very unusual level of service from a member of Congress in their district, so they got just incredible response.
Okay, next question. How do we use our We Wealth scores with Attentively?
Sure. Jessica, do you want to answer that one, or do you want me to?
You can go ahead and answer it. I think you can speak to how to export from us and import to Attentively probably better than I can.
Sure. So right now, what you would do is we would actually work with you to create segments based on your tactics for that particular campaign. So if you were targeting people who were in particular wealth brackets or had particular P2G scores, who were also talking about a topic, or who also were, on Tumblr, or whatever the combo of social data and social listening filters you wanted to apply, we would basically help you export that data from Wealth Engine, import it into Attentively as groups, and then you would filter by a combination of those Wealth Engine groups and the social listening data. There's the potential to do some other more interesting, or more subtle targeting, but that would be the sort of standard approach at this point.
Yeah, and even just to build on that, even those who wanted to segment by wealth scores and then geographically could put those in as segments too. I mean, I think the beauty of our integration and partnership is that we can work with the workflow that works for however the team, the fundraising team is using our tools independently. So for those who are listening who might use Attentively but haven't been introduced to Wealth Engine yet, we would work with that workflow, and same for those who are on the phone who are Wealth Engine customers that are interested in learning more about integrating Attentively. It doesn't need to change your workflow at all. It will work with whatever rhythm you have going there. So there should be minimal disruption and minimal friction to make these two work together.
Yeah, just to add on to that too, there's a lot of flexibility in what you do with the information. So it can be set up to basically just inform your team when something interesting happens. So you could, for example, say, all right, I'm going to take my donor record side and I'm just going to monitor people who haven't given in a while that are, have a particularly high PCG score. And then when they mention anything, even tangentially related to my cause, I'm going to push that to my, high dollar fundraising team, because I know, like, okay, I have a reason, to connect with them. They may choose to pick up the phone in a well-timed, drop-in call. They may choose to invite them to an upcoming event, or they may choose to respond to their post even just by favoring it on social media. It really would depend on, how does that team typically interact with those high-dollar donors. But what you would do is enable you to know, okay, this is a good time. This is on this person's mind.
Okay, thank you. Roz, for the Wealth Engine clients that use the Salesforce, Wealth Engine Salesforce app, do you integrate with Salesforce as well?
Not directly. We have a bit of an integration through a third-party tool called Zapier. So you can set up a sync between the two using Zapier. We also have an API, so we could pull and push data with the API. There's a little bit of development work involved, not super complicated. And otherwise, it would be import-export with CSVs.
Okay. Are there any current plans to automate integration of Wealth Engine data and Attentively at this time?
We are talking about that. Our first step has been, let's just make it real as easy as we can with, the support and sort of this simple integrations like, with the groups. But it's certainly something that we're talking about, and we're really interested to know if you're interested in it.
Yes, exactly. I would say that those who are on the phone that would like to see that, and please let us know, because the deeper the more we integrate the integration will be determined by what you ask for. We're very user focused, and so your feedback is super important to that. So agree with Roz. There should be more to come, but a lot of that will be driven by requests from our users. So reach out to us or reach out to Attentively and let us know what you'd like to see as our relationship grows.
Okay, thank you. And for the audience out there, I'm not sure if you're experiencing any audio issues, and if you were, we will definitely be able to address any other questions that you have at this point in time. Just waiting for a few more questions to come in, but want to actually just throw this back to Jessica or Roz to see if you had any other insights that you'd like to share during this presentation while we work on our audio issues on this end.
This is Roz. I mean, I guess just an invitation to be in communication. My email is roz, R-O-Z, at attentive.ly, roz at attentively. And as Jessica indicated, I'm really interested to hear from folks who are on the call. If you have questions, if you have ideas, if you're not sure if this is, the right, time, place, organization strategy to do this kind of thing, we're always happy to talk and, be helpful wherever we can.
Likewise, and if there's any additional questions that come up, after we close today that you think of later, because it always inevitably happens, please feel free to send us your questions using the hashtag #SocialWealth, and you can tag Wealth Engine and Attentively in that in those tweets. And you can also find us on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and we will work to get you an answer as soon as possible. Let's continue the conversation.
Great, and I noticed there's a lot of, sorry.
I'm sorry, it feels that the audio is on my end.
Okay.
But I do have a question that probably Jessica may be able to answer. We have someone who has a large database, and they do more direct mail. Therefore, they don't have a good percentage of email addresses in their database. Is there a resource to find email addresses?
Yes, so we can do that through an append, and we're able to take that list. The match rate will depend on how much initial data you have to give us, but you can certainly work with our team to append those lists with email addresses. And then, of course, if you're asking because you want to be able to use Attentively, then you can go in and see which of those are socially active across the different social media channels.
Okay, I have another question here. Which social mediums are the most important to have a presence on, and how important is it to have a hashtag for specific fundraising challenges?
On the hashtag question, I mean, I think in most cases you would want to have a hashtag for anything, that's at any kind of scale. And it's actually surprising how few people it takes, just to speak again to the whole power of influencers thing, it doesn't take a ton of people to make a hashtag trend. And whenever you have a trending hashtag, other people start to take notice. It's another, exposure for your cause and your organization. I was anecdotally at a conference last week where, to be fair, it had a social media theme to it, but there were, a few hundred people in the room, and it ended up trending among the top hashtags on Twitter globally because you just had the set of people who were going to tweet about it. So kind of same thing with your organization. If you can, when you do the event, plan that stuff ahead so you know what the hashtag is, other people know what the hashtag is, and then proactively ask that segment of the top 1 or 5% of your audience, especially of the participants, to be tweeting about it. Then you can actually get a lot of pickup from a relatively small audience. What was the first question? Was it about which networks are you on? Was the first question which social networks? The first question was
like which social networks. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some, obviously Facebook and Twitter are big, but I think the real answer is data. Look at your, and this is actually something that Audience Insights report is great for. You can see the top 10 social networks and what's the percentage of your organization's supporters' presence on those social networks as compared to the average. And so that gives you a good idea of is this worth pursuing? And I think measuring it against the average is helpful because you can see, are we under or overrepresented, or are our donors under or overrepresented on this social network? And sometimes something surprising will pop up, like for example, angel lists. if you've got a lot of investors on your list, then it's sort of an odd one for an organization to be on, but it might just make sense for you to be there if that's, if you're somehow in that entrepreneurial space, maybe you're supporting startups or something. So you'll be able to answer that question based on your own data.
Yeah, I mean, to build on that, I think you want to go where your potential and existing donors are. So even if, a lot of people are like, oh, you got to be on Twitter because I'm on Twitter. Well, you really only need to be on Twitter if that's where your audience is. And that's, you want to spend your time where people are, because if they're not, then you're just going to be talking a lot and not getting a whole lot of response.
Okay, thank you. Just in respect of everyone's time, we're going to wrap this up, and I wanted to thank you again, Roz and Jessica, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. For any questions that didn't get addressed or any comments that you made, we will definitely pass these details on to the presenters and members of our staff to follow up immediately. As a reminder, we will be sending you the slides and recording of today's presentation within 24 hours. Also, in order for us to make this event and others like it more valuable to you and your organization, please take a moment to complete the survey that will pop up in the display when the session concludes. Finally, to learn more about Wealth Engine, please visit our website at www.wealthengine.com. And thank you for joining us today. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shannon.